Do you have a certain amount of time before filing a claim? Like, say, for instance, if I got in a car accident.
Generally speaking, if you're injured, you generally have 2 years from the date of the accident or incident to file a lawsuit.
Hi, everyone. It is Nicole with the Doctors for Accidents Personal Injury Show. I'm here with Jean-Paul Anderson.
Yes, hello.
that was a little delayed today. We are here with the lead attorney, Allen Vaysberg of the law offices of STEERS and Associates. Welcome to our show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, JP, you want to start off with the question?
I guess I'm starting.
He's starting today.
How much compensation is expected to receive in a PI case in California?
Honestly, I get that question sometimes from people, and I just say it really depends on your injuries and what kind of accident or incident you were in. So obviously, the more that you suffer, the more pain you have, the more things that are wrong with you, the greater compensation you may recover or be expected to recover.
Yeah.
But every case is different. It really depends.
What do you think about these websites that say, calculate how much my case is worth?
Yeah. That's really common. We see that out there. They're called case value or case calculators.
Yeah.
How much is my case worth? We don't have that on our site. I just don't think that's good because you can't really give a formula to people like that. It kind of, I think if you put that out there, people go there and they have a certain expectation maybe, but we're not, at least not yet, we're not an AI law firm. It's not an algorithm.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. No, the AI is an interesting thing too.
Right.
And then I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the business. Just give us a little bit of background of yourself.
Absolutely. So I started working at the law offices of STEERS and Associates in 2007, shortly after I got my license to practice law. The firm was actually founded by my partner, Elena STEERS, who actually is my mother. I don't know if everyone knows that.
Nice.
But so it's a family run firm.
Business, yeah.
Yeah. And I've been a partner with the firm since 2007, since I got my license. Cool. right before that. We used to do bankruptcy law and personal injury law, and I've handled the personal injury side of the practice for this time. But in the last year or so, we've transitioned to just become strictly a personal injury law firm. What I've done hasn't changed. I've been doing exclusively personal injury law for
since the
so many years. But yeah, so that's kind of the background.
Yeah.
How does it feel to work next to your mom every day?
Well, that's a good question because more recently I work more remotely from home.
Is this my choice?
No, it's not like that. But obviously we do go into the office too, and so it's good. It's good. I think we have the flexibility and the comfort to know that we can approach each other if we have to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is one thing I support is like family ran businesses.
Yeah.
Like if you can work with your family and everything works out great, then I give all support to that. Like supporting family and everybody under the same roof is always really
helping
good.
each other,
Like us.
Yeah. Right. Hey, look, yeah. And I'm sure she, teaches you. She's a great mentor, and I'm sure she, has giving you the the ins and outs of the business and how things work. Yeah,
definitely.
It's always helpful to have someone.
Definitely can agree with that. And now we're at the point where we can help each other. Too.
Absolutely.
Did you always want to be an attorney since you were little because of your mom?
Well, actually, she didn't become an attorney until she was, I think, 35 years old. So that wasn't her first career. So to be honest with you, it wasn't like when I was 6 years old, like, I want to be a lawyer. Like I wasn't sure at the time, as a little kid, I wasn't thinking about it in those terms yet. But after I graduated college from UCLA, then it took me about 2 years to kind of decide what I wanted to do. But I did work for one lawyer in downtown LA for like a year and a half, and then I decided to go to law school. So that's kind of where that path took me after
Realize that you like
and so tell us a little bit, like, most of the people that watch the show aren't really familiar with how personal injury works or personal injury claims. Does it cost money to hire an attorney in PI?
So in our industry, the answer is almost always no. We do or charge what's called a contingency fee. What that means is that our recovery, our attorney fees are contingent or dependent upon an outcome, meaning we get a percentage of the recovery. So if there's, for some reason, no money is recovered, then a percentage of zero is $0.
Right.
Now, there's also case costs. So we have the right to get our case costs back at the end when there's a recovery, but we'll advance all the case costs. In other words, we don't tell our client, hey, can you give us a $5,000 retainer so we can pay for the cost of moving your case forward?
Right.
If we were to do that, we would get very little business, and we don't want to do that. So.
Got it. And in the process of negotiating settlements, is that something you guys handle as well?
Yeah, so that's definitely a part of our work. What we do is, if the case is ready or the claim is ready to move along to the settlement phase, let's say our client is done with their medical treatment and liability or fault has been established and accepted by, let's say, the insurance company, then we'll send out what's known as a demand package, demand letter summarizing our client's medical treatment and injuries and damages, along with all the appropriate records and bills. And then we ask for a certain amount of compensation or money for our client. And then typically it's the insurance company, the adjuster will review it, and within, let's say, 30 days or so, they'll respond with an offer, and then we can kind of go over that and see if it makes sense either to settle or maybe sometimes a lawsuit is necessary to be filed.
So what's the average time it takes for a case to settle?
That's a good question, and clients often want to know that, or potential clients. I would say it's a minimum usually of at least 6 months, because if you think about it, you're injured, you want to get some medical treatment or need some medical treatment, obviously. You're not going to be able to be done in 2 weeks unless you just aren't really that injured. And usually we see that someone gets medical treatment, a course of therapies and other treatment, let's say at least 3 months, maybe more. And then we have to get the medical records and bills. We have to send out a demand for settlement and then wait for the insurance company to respond. So I would say on the shorter end of that, 6 months, 5-6 months, something like that. However, if it's a more serious injury case where there's a lot more extensive medical treatment, there's more stuff going on, it could take a lot longer. Or if a lawsuit has to be filed, then that will delay things quite a bit, because it's a whole other process. So it could be several years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is there a specific
Statute of limitation
Right.
before filing? Do you have a certain amount of time before filing a claim? Like, say for instance, if I got in a car accident 3 years ago and I've been having injuries, didn't really know about anything, and then I hear about, you could have had a PI lawyer for your auto injury, but it's been 3 years. How do you go about that? And you're practically stuck with the bills from going to
From the medical
treatments
treatment
and everything, and you're
yeah.
realizing I can't afford this.
So the statute of limitations, it just means deadline to file a lawsuit. So every state has their own law or laws about that. In California, generally speaking, if you're injured, you generally have 2 years from the date of the accident or incident to file a lawsuit. So you can try to settle it, the claim within the 2 years, great. But if you can't settle it, you have 2 years from the date it happened to file a lawsuit. There are some exceptions to that. So if it involves someone under 18, it's 2 years after or from the time they turn 18. So obviously there's more time. But, if someone's young and they're 8 years old and the parent wants us to resolve it, we're not typically going to be waiting until they're after they're 18 to try to resolve it, right? So generally it's 2 years. It could be shorter, like if it's a case or a claim against a public entity, like the government. Let's say I had a case where my client was driving, just minding his own business, and a city of LA worker made a U-turn in front of him trying to go somewhere, didn't notice, and caused a really bad accident. My client had to be taken to the hospital, had surgery. So it's a case against the city of Los Angeles in that example and their employee, right? So because the city is a public entity, it's a governmental entity, you have to make a written claim with the city within 6 months of the date of the accident or incident. And then you have to see how they respond to your claim. And then if they don't respond, you have the normal 2 years from the date of the incident to file a lawsuit. But they do respond and they deny your claim, you have 6 months from that date to file a lawsuit. So when a case involves the government, it's very tricky technical requirements. So we actually do handle a lot of cases against public entities like the city, the county, the MTA. So it's important, the state. So it's important to be knowledgeable in that area if you're going to handle that.
Wow.
What would you recommend for a person who, say for instance, someone gets in a car accident, but they're not extremely injured where they need an ambulance? What would you recommend for them to do right after a car accident?
So if someone doesn't need immediate medical care to the point where they need to go to the hospital by ambulance, but they still think there could be some injuries, or there's obviously an accident damaging the car or cars involved, I would recommend that they document the accident, scene, get photographs of their car, of the other car involved. If it's serious enough, call the police to hopefully make a traffic collision report. I know that City of Los Angeles doesn't respond now as much.
They don't,
Yeah,
Wow.
but I know if it's on the freeway, the CHP will typically respond if needed, if there's some kind of injuries. So I would just say document everything. Get the other person's insurance information, contact information, phone number,
Take as many pictures as you can. Yeah.
Because sometimes clients won't get all the information. And we'll be like, well, where's the other person's number and license and insurance information? Oh, I didn't get that. Now we're going on a wild goose chase.
Right. So, Alan, if let's say I was involved in an accident, if I was partially at fault, would I still be able to, retrieve some type of compensation from it, or am I excluded from any claim?
No, you're not excluded. So in California, the law allows you to recover whatever percentage the other party's at fault for your injuries or your damages. So let's say, I don't know, let's say you were in a car accident, and the other driver's insurance company says, well, our client, was speeding, so therefore we're going to only accept 90% of fault, not 100. So our client would say, that's ridiculous. I don't agree with that. Okay, that's fine. We could, either if we get a number that the client is happy with and to settle, then it doesn't really matter. Great. Otherwise, we file a lawsuit. But the point is, let's say in that example, the insurance company for the other driver accepts 90% fault, not 100. So then if they make an offer of a certain dollar amount, let's just give a number, $20,000. Let's say they value the claim as being worth $20,000, but they say we're putting your client at fault for 10% for speeding. They reduce that by 10%. That leaves an offer now of $18,000.
Right.
That's an example.
Wow, interesting.
Right.
Is there another example for the, I guess, partial fault besides like speeding? Say, for instance, if someone's speeding, but someone pulls out in front of him and hits him, but the momentum of speeding is it wasn't calculated right when the person pulled out. Are there other incidents that happen?
Yeah. So another example is we do a lot of premises liability cases. So like someone, let's say, slips and falls, let's say at a grocery store, okay? And the whole case depends on, did the store know, or should they have known that there was, like, let's say, a liquid or a hazard on the floor, for example? And if so, how long was that on the floor for? What do the sweep sheets show? When was the last time they inspected that aisle before our client fell? So let's say that they didn't inspect the floor for an hour before the client fell. That usually means it's a pretty good case, most likely, because they should have inspected it sooner. Still, when it's time to negotiate a settlement, or if you go to trial and we argue the case to a jury, right? The other side's going to argue, well, so-and-so should have been watching where they were going, and if they were more careful, they wouldn't have fallen. And of course, we would say that's not true because you're not looking on the floor when you're walking. But I'm just saying, in premises liability cases like slip and falls, it's often common that a certain percentage will be argued of contributing to the incident or causing it. So what that percentage is up to negotiation or up to argument. So it could be 20%, 30%, it can be more. It just depends on the facts of the case.
I think I've heard 50-50 too, if like someone's at fault partially with the other person.
Yes, that's commonly in like the car accident context, 50%. Like let's say someone runs a red light, and our client is saying, I had a green light, they ran a red light, and they're saying, no, I had a green light and you ran a red light.
Right.
If it's that's called word versus word. So it's not even necessarily 50-50. It's like you have to break the tie. That's kind of a slightly different issue. But when you're the one making a claim or suing later on, you have to show more likely than not that it happened the way you said it happened.
Got it.
Okay. And if you can't break the tie, like let's say there's no witnesses, no video footage, no police report taking like the version of the other person of what happened. Let's say maybe they admitted it was their fault at the scene. So that none of those things are present, and the other person sticks to their story that they had a green light. And there's no other evidence we could use. It's sometimes the insurance company for the other driver might say, "Oh, well, we're backing up our person, so we're denying the claim completely."
Wow.
So that's
interesting,
not really,
though.
That's not really a percentage argument. That's more strictly we believe our person. You can't prove it.
Yeah.
So there are different factual scenarios that we have to look at based on our experience. Does that answer your question, or are there other examples?
Yeah, no, that was actually my question. I was actually going to ask next about emotional distress in a case. Maybe some examples. JP, I don't know if you have an example, like if someone in your household has emotional distress, maybe with
something happening. So let's say somebody was involved in an accident, and like my grandfather and grandmother were involved in an accident. My grandmother, suffered some severe injuries. Is my grandfather allowed to do a claim for, stress and emotional stress, I guess? So
no, your grandfather, if he wasn't the one actually injured in the accident, he wouldn't claim emotional distress. However, if two people are married, then the spouse of the other injured spouse can claim what's called loss of consortium damages, which means like if their relationship is affected, including sexual relations, but not just that, but like other things involving the marriage.
Right.
If it's a significant enough injury and incident, then the other spouse can also claim, request compensation for that. It's known as loss of consortium. But for emotional distress, if you're injured in an accident or an incident, you can get compensation for, let's say, your medical bills and for your pain and suffering that you went through, both past and future, due to this incident or accident. If you have emotional distress that's distinct and not just related to your pain and suffering, but let's say you have PTSD, psychological trauma to the incident, and you need to see like a therapist, counseling, or see a psychologist, psychiatrist,
right.
that factors into emotional distress damages.
Interesting.
In other words, what you're entitled to ask for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very interesting. Wow.
I had a friend in school, back in high school, she got in a really bad car accident and she refused to get in a car. She would end up walking to school for like months after her car accident.
So that's unfortunate to hear that, but that's an example of someone that probably had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder,
So that's
after an
one.
accident, probably, something that she should have pursued if she made a claim. So,
Yeah, it's a
Interesting.
small town. I don't think they
no. Well,
yeah.
They don't know too much about
They
it.
don't know too
Yeah.
much about something.
teach
Poor
their own,
girl
but
though. Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
it's
I remember her
unfortunate.
walking.
How do you do you have any like routines that, before court, before you go into a trial, do you have any specific routines, any,
Pump songs.
or anything
Singing
like
in
that?
the car.
I just preparation, making sure that I'm prepared for whatever that is, whether it's a court hearing or,
Yeah.
a trial or even mediation, depositions, all that stuff.
For sure.
Just being prepared,
And let's say, you win a case, is there like a specific song that you play or anything like that where you're driving the
Or
car?
a bar that you go to.
No, I can't say that I do.
Okay. All right.
No.
Fair enough.
We thought we'd get some secrets out of you, but I guess not today.
If I had one, I would tell you better.
That's cool. That's cool.
So how is it handling? So you have 2 children.
Right.
And I know you're very busy. How do you
Yes.
handle that every day? So he has a very small child, 9 months, and then a 6-year-old.
Right. We
So
have kids around the same age.
we do.
Yeah.
So our life is hectic. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine too, like taking care of, putting documents together, making sure everything's prepped before trial.
Yeah.
Like how can you even focus
Well,
with children around?
I try to have a good team around me and, help each other handle things the right way and be efficient with my time,
Yeah.
And I still have a sense of dedication for my, to my clients and the cases I'm handling. So
Yeah.
I don't want things to slip through the cracks ever, but
Yeah.
I think I try to balance it.
Absolutely.
Because obviously my family is very important to me.
Of
so,
course.
Yeah.
So do you have any recommendations or sayings for other students who are attending law school right now? Do you have any motivation for them? Or
Any books you've read or anything
motto,
like that?
something that you'd give encourage for them to keep on going and finish their school, even if they fail the bar
State bar.
bar exam
once,
after law
twice,
school. Yeah, don't give up. If you're in law school, just try to get experience if you can, especially after your first year, because first year is pretty tough with all the core classes that you have to take. Just try to get an idea of what you like, and you don't necessarily have to know exactly what you want to do right away, although some people claim they do. And just stick to it. If you like learning and you want to be in the field, just try to get experience, get to know people, and do your best, and don't give up.
Okay.
Great. Yeah.
And do you recommend any books?
There's a lot of books in the personal injury field. Like some are more trial focused.
Okay.
One book that I got years back that I think was pretty good is called Rules of the Road by Rick Friedman. It talks about how to frame a case. Like with the idea if it goes to trial, how to present it to show that the other side didn't follow the appropriate rules and regulations, safety standards. But it can be applied not just to trial, but how you frame the case from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I'm not saying I'm reading that right this moment. Okay?
Right.
It's just a good
It's just a
book.
recommendation.
Too.
Yeah.
So
That's
Maybe
great.
We will link it below so you can see the
Yeah.
book. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
So for our audience, are there any tips, Alan, that you recommend before choosing a PI attorney? Is there anything specific to look out for or anything like that?
I just think, whether it's for yourself or a loved one, just make sure that you're comfortable with the attorney or the firm that you're going to go with, hire.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to call, several options if you don't feel comfortable with the first one that you talk to. And you can also look up things online. Not saying everything you see online is always going to tell you everything you need to know,
Right.
but, there's different things you can check out and make sure that, it's not like someone that has a 501-star reviews and that's it, for example. Not saying that's the only thing you look at, but and then just make sure that the attorney or firm is giving you information that makes sense when you have the initial free consultation. And, I think if you specialize in the area of personal injury law, that helps. That's what we do. So, if it's someone that does like 10 different areas of law, maybe that's not the best thing to do, but for the client to go with. But you never know. Maybe it's a firm that has attorney for each area. So just check it out. I'm not going to talk bad or speak bad about anybody. Just check out, the attorney before you reach out, and then make sure you're comfortable with that attorney.
Wonderful. Allen, thank you so much for coming today. It really has been a pleasure. I always enjoy having a talk with you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching our show today. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any comments, make sure you leave them on the bottom of this video. And also, thank you, Allen Vaysberg, for coming to our show. Make sure you guys follow his Instagram, STEERS Law Firm. And again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Have a good one, guys. Take care.